Now, if you're uncomfortable here, again, you have hip, knee, ankle problems, feel free to come up and do this drill in an all fours position. If you do have access to this position here, I'd ask that you do it here. But again, if you don't feel bad going into all fours, it's totally fine. What we're going to do now is we're going to start to sprinkle in a little bit of segmental side flexion now. So I'm going to work on trying to close off one side of my spine, create compression on this side, and gap and open up and lengthen the other side of my spine so that we get opening on one side and closing on the other side, and then we're going to go the other way with it. Now, when you do this, I want you to visualize your rib cage where you have all of those different ribs, and you're going to close off the ribs one section or one rib at a time as you segmentally side bend that way, as you open up the ribs one segment or one rib at a time on the other side. So I don't just want you to go side bend. I want you to piece by piece side bend your way through your thoracic spine and through your rib cage. So we're going to place our hands down on the ground. We're going to start going to the right side. Now, as I try to close off my thoracic spine and my rib cage rib by rib by rib, what you can see in my body as I do this is I'm going to try and create as many wrinkles in my shirt on the right side as we go to the right, and create as few wrinkles in my shirt, or really lengthen out my shirt on the other side. That's the equivalent of what I'm trying to do with my ribs. So in this position here, we're just going to be in a neutral position to start, so I don't want you super extended, I don't want you super flexed. We're just going to hang out somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to initiate with my shoulder blade. So I'm actually going to go right shoulder blade pulls down into my right back pocket, left shoulder blade comes up towards my left ear. That's going to initiate things from the top, and then I'm going to start to really focus on just my top ribs, starting to compress on the right side, trying to create folds quite high up in the right side of my shirt as I lengthen the top left side of my rib cage, segmentally compressing my way down. As a consequence of that, my right shoulder is moving towards my right hip, and I'm going to try and close my right side of my rib cage down rib by rib by rib until I literally can't go any further. Simultaneously, I'm lengthening the left side of my rib cage. Now, when I can't go any further, just to get a little extra length on that left side, if you watch my sit bones here, I'm going to take my sit bones and shift them to the other side of my left foot so that my left hip drops down to the ground, and I'm going to capture a little extra length here. Now from here, I feel a big stretch in the left side of my rib cage. So as I hang out here, I'm now welcome to take a few breaths here. You can also experiment with, okay, if I layered in what we worked on earlier, and I stay in this position, but I take my sternum and I gently press it away from the floor, do I feel an even bigger stretch? If so, maybe you want to take a few breaths there as well. But you're really going to stay closed off on the right side, lengthened out on the left side. And then once you've done that, once you've done your few breaths, you've given yourself a bit of time there, we're going to segmentally work our way out of it. So I'm now going to start to, actually let's just pick our pelvis up first and bring ourselves back up top. There we go, and we'll initiate from the top on this one. So I'm going to initiate with my shoulder blades. My right shoulder blade is now going to come up to my ear. My left shoulder blade is going to go into my back pocket. And now I'm going to start to try and get rid of all these wrinkles or open up my ribs on that right side. Rib by rib, starting from the top, working my way down. Closing off the left side of that rib cage, one rib at a time. Left shoulders coming down to left hip. So now I'm creating a bunch of wrinkles on the left side of my rib cage. I'm lengthening the right side of my rib cage. And then to capture a little extra from the bottom, once again, if you watch my sit bones here and my hips, I'm going to shift my hips over to that side, right hip to the floor, grab a little extra length. I can hang out here and take a few breaths, or I can test and go, okay, if I drive my sternum towards the ceiling slightly, or I create some space between my shoulder blades, do I feel an even bigger stretch, or do I feel less of a stretch, or just how does that feel for me? Roll with whichever one feels better. Hang out there for a few breaths, and then you're going to segmentally bring your way out of it we'll first just bring our pelvis back up into our original kind of neutral-ish position, and then we'll start from the top. Right shoulder blade comes down. We'll move through this one a little bit faster here. So right shoulder blade down, left shoulder blade up, segmentally closing off one rib at a time from the top, working our way down through that right side. Right hip and right shoulder start to move towards each other. And then if I want to grab a little extra, I can fall over to the left side and bring my left hip to the floor, grab a little extra length on that side, and then come back, and then work my way back through from the top down. The left shoulder blade comes down to the left hip, and I start segmentally, piece by piece by piece, closing off that left side of the rib cage, and then sinking back over to the right side with my right hip, and then finding my way back to neutral. As my right shoulder blade comes down, my pelvis comes back over top of my heels, and ending like that. Now, if you go through that and you're like, damn, I really like that, I wonder if I can get a little bit more out of it, you can actually take your hands, do that same drill, but cross your hands over top, and that'll also help you capture a little bit more length on that side, and it's just something that you can play with, again, assuming you've got the shoulder mobility to do so.